I think this is obviously a major consideration. I think there was two questions, one about the UK and one about the borders. I think the borders one has more general relevance, and we'll answer that one first and then come back to the specific UK one. I think there are both land and air borders, and obviously crossing a land border in itself doesn't present a tremendous amount of risk because the conveyancer is usually a car, so it's a person moving from one zone to the other. And I think a lot of countries now are looking at risk and response equalization. They're looking at other countries and saying, is the risk of disease in your country similar to mine? And is your response comprehensive like mine? So if we exchange citizens or tourists, there's no real difference. If a person from a country that's managing risk well and managing response well can move between countries, then you're not adding any extra risk by moving your citizens between the countries. And in that sense, you see countries in the Baltic, like Latvia and Lithuania, looking at what they call bubble travel zones. I think Australia and New Zealand doing the same. I think countries in the ASEAN are doing the same and looking at how, and I think that's maybe how travel and trade will return. I'm not an economist and I'm not a futurist, but I think you're going to see countries in the same sub-regions or regions, particularly those with land borders or strong traditional trading or historical links, are going to look for ways to equalize the risk, bring their responses into line so that they have the confidence of their communities that the risk in that country and the response in that country is very similar to what we have here, and therefore we can move as citizens between. So that's going to take time, but I sense that's the way it's going to happen. Air travel is a different challenge because air travel can bring people a very long way. And around the world, literally in half a day or a day, and that's going to introduce more complexity for countries as regards the rules they will have for arrivals from far away, and that's going to involve much more sophisticated risk management and risk reduction measures, both in terms of which countries can travel to which, and then how the airline process or the travel process is managed. And I think a lot of airlines now, and we're working with IATA, we're working with ICAO on guidelines for how airlines can resume in a safe manner. And that risk has to be managed right the way through the airport process, the travel process, and then the immigration and arrival process. So it's not just being on the plane. It's a long procedure. So we are working to try and advise the travel industry how to do that as safely as possible. But again, this comes back to national policy, and obviously nation states will decide who can travel to and from their countries, and they will need to do that both at their land borders and at their air borders, and the arrangements made in those two situations may differ greatly, and we may see return of land border travel, certainly extensive cross-border travel before we see extensive air travel, but that again remains to be seen. And maybe the UK question?
Sure, I'll take the first question. So the question was specifically about the UK, but I'm going to